Professional nighttime photography in VR 360 or regular 2D photo is always very hard. Long exposure always produces blurry photos with moving subjects. Another top challenge for virtual 360 photographer is to preserve the outside view of the windows. Manual HDR bracketing is not always practical in VR. Today, I'm going to show you some latest development in my workflow on handling these tough scenarios at ease without long exposure or HDR to produce low noise 16-bit RAW photos in both stereoscopic 360 VR and regular 2D photography. And it's going to be 100% free without using HDR software like Chromatic.
Do you know the way?
No! I will show you the way. Hi everyone, it's your boy Hugh here from Hdr Workflow. We all know that when capturing 360 VR or just regular photos at night or in low light environment, the pictures are often blurry and noisy unless a tripod is used with long exposure. But even that with the DSLR HDR techniques, moving objects will get ghosting. Then I discovered the Kandao RAW Plus. Unlike Photomatic, Kandao RAW Plus uses computational photography techniques and optical flow algorithm to combine a burst of raw images into one and produce a brand new 16-bit image with increased bit depth, detail, dynamic range, and lower noise. The crazy part is this will work with the Obsidian VR camera right here, as well as most of the DSLR camera. So if you are an old school 360 photographer using panoramic heads like the Nodo Ninja and giant fisheye lens like this one, you can still leverage this free software. Let me show you some sample 360 stereoscopic photos I took so you can learn by comparison. Here is a typical indoor stereoscopic 360 photo where you want to protect the windows and outside. This is actually the inside of my house and I have lots of windows. I highly recommend viewing this photo with a VR headset. I will put the download link below, or you can view it on the VR app on Oculus Store. As you can see, I'm trying to expose the windows correctly so the outside of my house will not blow out. But the problem is the inside of my house will be very dark. By the way, this is shot with the Obsidian S and literally take 1 second to capture. The workflow is extremely easy compared to the traditional DSLR technique, which require multiple pictures and manual stitching. The next picture is captured with the Obsidian RAW DNG mode. Since it is a RAW, you can lift the shadow and balance the exposure in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw. So now the shadow looks a lot nicer with the same 1 second workflow. Please pay attention to my face and the color chart. If you zoom in, you see lots of digital noise in the shadow. So yes, shooting RAW will give you 12-bit of more dynamic range to play with. But noise is unavoidable. So at this point, you will suggest the HDR workflow, but we want to keep the cost down, way down, and really leverage the 1 second workflow instead of taking manual bracketed photos. And here is using the Obsidian DNG burst mode to take 8 DNG in 0.27 seconds interval. Then we process the 8 DNG using the Kandao RAW Plus and Adobe Camera Raw. The shadow looks a lot nicer now and not noisy at all compared to just a single raw DNG photo. Besides using this technique to replace the traditional HDR workflow for interior 3D 360 photo capture, the biggest advantage of Kandao RAW Plus is in nighttime photography. So to really test out this workflow, we find the most dimly lit area in Santa Monica Pier, overlooking the distant ferry reels, and capture these photos with the Kandao Obsidian RAW burst mode and regular RAW mode. Here is the final result. Again, to see stereo, please follow the link in the description below with your VR headset. This image is shot with ISO 1600 and shutter speed is 1/30 to let as much light in as possible. It is not a long exposure shot though, so you can still clearly see all the light and people without too much ghosting and light trails. Here is a single fisheye lens compared before and after Kandao RAW Plus. As you can see before, the ISO 1600 generates lots of digital noise, which make the image unusable. So do you need a Kandao Obsidian camera like this one to use this free software? No, you don't. For example, my Panasonic Lumix GH5 here only shot 12-bit of raw images. I can use the exact same techniques to increase the image to 16-bit with noise reduction. Here is a GH5 image trying to expose the window outside correctly. As you see, the subject is too dark. Here is another GH5 image trying to expose the subject correctly, but the window is blown out. Here is merging 7 GH5 bracketed images together using Photomatic, while our model is waving her hand. Even the highlight and the shadow looks a lot nicer now. The image is unusable because of ghosting. And here is the final image with Kandao RAW Plus. As you see, there are no ghosting, a sharper image with decent highlight and shadow. You can see the model's face, the color chart, and the outside of the window as well. And this is shot by me hand holding the GH5 like this with the burst mode. So Kandao RAW Plus also magically align my handheld shot and to reduce the camera shake like this. So if you like what you see and want to add this workflow into your photography arsenal, both in 2D and 3D 360, here is the tutorial on how. So here is how you shoot DNG RAW with the Kandao Obsidian camera right here. First, go ahead and connect your camera to a modem right here so you can control your camera with a mobile phone or any mobile devices. Go ahead and open the Kandao Obsidian app on your iOS. And then first, go ahead and pick the DMG8 because we're gonna take 8 DMG in a burst mode. So after pick that, go ahead and hit the gear icon and make sure you are in picture profile and lock. Lock mode is a brand new mode introduced by Kandao Obsidian. Really help you to bring out the detail in low light scenario and basically have a pretty good light dynamic range so you can keep the full 12 stop of this camera. So standard mode doesn't keep 12 stop of this camera, but again, if you don't want to do color correction in post, you can go ahead and pick standard mode. But for most scenario, you gotta run through the image in the camera, Adobe Camera Raw. So I would highly suggest to try the lock mode. So after that, you can go back into the camera. The next step is to set the correct exposure value. So go ahead and pick, let's say this lens. Go ahead and hit the sync right up top to bring up the exposure menu. On here, we can bring this to 100 ISO. Again, up the shutter speed until you see like correctly expose myself. And then we actually gonna expose the outside window. So here you can see outside window is all blown out. You actually try to expose the outside, the blown out area to make sure you actually can correctly see what's happening outside. It's totally okay to little bit underexpose and actually a lot underexpose for the inside area because we can bring everything up in post. So I will continue drop the shutter speed. In here, if you pay attention to the outside, now I can kind of see the outside window already. Let's check on other lenses as well. So look at this one, you see the outside window. You can right now see the outside. So that is a good exposure, and I am not actually really dark as well. So after that, go ahead and close that. Again, adjust the color temperature right here. I'll just set it as auto. And then go ahead and hit the capture button. And then one of the camera try to capture 8 DNG in a 0.27 second interval. So really fast burst mode to capture 8 DNG at the same time with this camera doing it right now. And it's okay to move around because the camera is actually very smart. So we'll actually reduce the motion blur in post. So as you see right now, it's done. It finished capture 8 DNG. I will bring this footage into my computer and bring it into Camera Raw, and we will do color correction over there. Go ahead and download the Kandao RAW Plus. You can find the link in the description below. But before we actually drop the image into Kandao RAW Plus, we should organize the Kandao image using the Kandao Studio. So go ahead and open Kandao Studio. You can using tools under export from camera, and then from here you can connect your camera via the Ethernet Wi-Fi, and then you can organize the footage that way. So the next step is I usually take one JPEG image before I do the DNG RAW. The reason why is I'm not gonna stitch my footage with Kandao Studio because Kandao Studio at the point of recording still cannot handle DNG stitching. So I'm going to use Musica because Musica is the only option I know can handle cinema DNG and DNG stitching in high resolution stereo mode. So go ahead and import the JPEG we took right here. We already have one. So go ahead, just hit the first image, hit open. We see it's a stereoscopic 360 photo. So go ahead and hit calibration. And now the calibration is finished. Kandao Studio generate and meta file. You can use in Mythica. So go ahead and save project as a Kandao project file. As you see, I already saved one here. So go ahead and save it. And then you can close Kandao Studio. Okay, next step, we're gonna import all a DNG file directly into the Kandao RAW Plus. So go to the folder, and here is all the file in one burst mode. So if you select them all and directly drop into Kandao RAW Plus, just hit confirm. And then Kandao RAW Plus will organize all 8 of the footage right here. Perfect. So the next thing is just go find the output folder and go ahead and select the folders and just go ahead and hit render. That's it. Kandao Plus will do all the work for you to help you to merge all those images into one single DNG file and up the bit depth to 16. Well, technically it's only 15, so if you really want to get 16, you actually need 16 of them, not 8 of them. So now we just finished. We go ahead and hit open folder. And Kandao RAW will open the new folder, the render folder. As you see, now we only have 6 image files because all 8 of them gotta merge into one single one. So all this is automatically generated for you, so you don't need to do anything. It's very convenient. So now you can go ahead and color grade this. Go ahead and go find the folder we just generated and select all 6 of the files and go ahead and open in Camera Raw. Again, you can also do this in Lightroom. So Camera Raw is open. I go ahead and pick this profile, which is most represent profile because I can see the distance of the Santa Monica Pier. So in here, the image is really dark, even in 1600s. So I will still up the shadow like a lot, like all the way. And then go ahead and drop the highlight, as you see, because we have a little bit blown out in the Ferris wheel. So I want to drop the highlight until I do not see any blown out. And here I can even up the exposure, and I like to add a little bit clarity to just have the HDR look and some color as well. And there's a little bit yellow, so I just push this to be a little colder color. Again, you can do your own color grading based on your taste. You can even add some noise reduction right here, increase some sharpness. If you think the noise is still too much, because I increased the exposure, so I will try to remove a little bit noise with the noise reduction module in Adobe Camera Raw. And then last thing I will do is try to remove chromatic aberration. And then you select all the image right here and sync the setting and hit OK. So now all the setting is synced. Again, make sure you select all the image and save image. I like to save the image as TIFF so I can bring it back to any other stitching software like the Kandao Studio or Auto Video Panel Pro, or in this case Messica, to stitch. Messica can actually handle DNG, but I just get into the habit to output that as a TIFF, so just more conveniency. So go ahead and select the folder. Make sure the depth is 16-bit depth because that is what we generated from the Kandao RAW Plus, and then go ahead and save. So now we have this brand new TIFF file. Now we go ahead and stitch them into one single stereoscopic 360 photos. So go ahead and open Messica, and now go ahead and jump in all the TIFF file. And remember that we generated a stitching preset with the Kandao Studio. Now go ahead and find that preset, which is right here. It's a Kandao project file. Go ahead and drop it in here. And then we'll automatically calibrate the stitch for you. Go ahead and turn on optical flow. Great. If you switch from left and right eyes, look pretty good. But go ahead and just match color. And from here, you can do your fine tune of your stereo stitching. For me, the camera is actually pretty high away from all the object, so there's no much thing I need to do. That is actually another tip to shoot on location. Try to make the camera pretty high so you can avoid stereo problem. And then go ahead and render this. In here, go ahead and pick TIFF file in 16-bit depth. Remember that you have to pick the TIFF because this file is actually really high bit depth, it's 16-bit depth. So make sure to pick that, top and bottom stereo, and then you can go ahead and output and render that. In the next tutorial, I'll teach you how to do fine tune of this image in stereoscopic. Mostly teach you how to remove the tripod in stereoscopic photos and do fine tuning to make the image look nicer. Okay, now you know how to use the RAW Plus with the Kandao Obsidian camera. Now let me show you how to actually use that just with regular DSLR camera like my GH5. So as you see here in this folder, I actually took a burst of photo with the GH5 and open the Kandao RAW Plus, go back, clear everything. And then from here, just select 16 of the raw picture from your GH5. So you'll need 16 of the raw file to generate a 16-bit raw image. So go ahead and drag that into the window. And then again, go ahead and find the output folder and go ahead and render. Okay, now the render is done. Go ahead and open the folders. So as you see, the Kandao RAW generates just one DNG. So go ahead and open that in Adobe Camera Raw. So this is before the Kandao RAW Plus, and that is after the Kandao RAW Plus. So the quality difference is very dramatic, even in this very, very low light scenario. Before, after. In the following up tutorials, I will go into detail on how to set up your Obsidian camera for interior photography and nighttime photography. I will show you the test result of different ISO settings and to show you how to get 16-bit raw 3D 360 photos and how to remove tripod, touch up your stereoscopic photo in Photoshop and other editing software applications. If you want to keep up to date to the latest stereoscopic 3D 360 photography techniques, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell if you like this video. It will make me really happy if you can give me a thumb up. Share this video on Twitter, Facebook, and your favorite social media. And tell your friends. I will post more Tiny Planet version of the 360 photos you just saw on my Instagram. So definitely go check that out as well. And I will see you next time.